Me, you do you. So me be me. So that's not good for the world. Anyway, hello, children. Okay, today we're going to talk about conflict resolution. I will read from the text, and then we're going to watch a couple videos. We're going to watch a TED Talk video about how to deal with conflict resolution. Then we're going to watch a YouTube video about 14 different ways to deal with conflict resolution, to deal with conflict. And then Wednesday, we're going to do like we did last week with peer pressure. You guys are going to role play some skits about, again, how are we going to properly resolve a conflict? Because, again, conflicts do not best get resolved with fist, with yelling, with words and things like that. Again, that's not a win-win situation. So we're going to talk about that today. So, page 70 in your book. Resolving conflicts. Now, we're going to just talk about this quick right. We're not going to write it. Do you think schools with violence problems should install video cameras? Why or why not? Again, we're not going to explain the paragraph. I'm going to ask you guys that. We're going to talk about it. And then we're going to learn about why conflicts occur, what to do if you're not getting along with someone, and how you can protect yourself from violence. Again, both physical and verbal, emotional. Why does conflict occur? Have you ever argued with a friend or family member? If you're like most people, you've done so many times. An argument is an example of a conflict or a problem in a relationship. Conflict is a normal part of life. However, when people do not resolve or deal with their conflicts, they might end up shouting or not speaking to each other. An argument can even lead to pushing and shoving. Figures 3.6 shows how conflicts occur. So again, we see this tug of war. And A, Mark and his differing expectations. Mark and his sister can't agree on when each of them should get to use the home computer. I guarantee that's been a conflict that your parents and guardians have had, since this social learning of, when does Aaron use the computer? When does Tig use the computer? When does Paul use the computer? When does Sarah use the computer? B, differing values. Sita wants to be paid for babysitting her sister. Her mom thinks this is Sita's responsibility as a family member. Hurt feelings. Jack never invites Manuel over to his house after school. Changing roles. Now that Raphael's sister Gina is away at college, Raphael has to do more chores. So how can we resolve that conflict? Maybe Rachel. Did I say Raphael? I don't know what I'm doing. I've been here all day. I did say Raphael. Okay. Now that Rachel, I don't know. I'm not re-recording this. Now that Rachel's sister Gina is away at college, Rachel has to do more chores. Where did Raphael come from? Maybe a resolution is more chores and more allowance. Jealousy. Beth did not make the prep squad, but her friend Shira did. Again, that's always a big thing, huh? You don't make the team, but your friend does. Maybe you don't want to be friends with that person anymore. Possessions. Sam's friend Dawn borrowed his book 2 weeks ago and still hasn't returned it. Because maybe Dawn did something to the book. Dawn just doesn't want to say something. Struggle for power. Colleen's group of friends has always seen her as the leader. Now Kiko, a new girl, is challenging that role. Well, that's always a big one. So, some conflicts can be avoided by showing common courtesy. What are other ways that we can avoid conflict? Well, I'm going to pause the video right there and say, besides just common courtesy, what are some ways that we can avoid the conflict? We can avoid conflict. Pause. Unpause. Okay, how to prevent conflict. How do you handle conflict? One way is to prevent it from happening in the first place. There are a number of approaches you can take. Practicing tolerance can prevent many conflicts. Tolerance is the ability to accept other people as they are. People may not always behave the way you like. Use your communication skills. They can clear up a misunderstanding before it builds up and causes further trouble. Now, again, obviously, when it says the ability to accept other people as they are, we should always tolerate people for who they are, depending on is who they are breaking laws. Obviously, on that, the government, the United States, doesn't tolerate people for who they are. If someone's going to steal and murder, we just, Tyke, he just likes to break into houses and take stuff. And if people wake up, he just shuffles off their mortal coil. Oh, that's just Tyke. No, again, we don't tolerate that. Because again, that's breaking laws. That's taking other people's rights, and that we should not tolerate. But you know what we mean by tolerating people for who and what they are. If you sense a conflict in the making, try to make the situation less tense. Put it in perspective. Tell a joke or change the subject. You might suggest a quick change of activity. When a conflict gets out of hand, walk away and cool off. Angry words and insults will only make matters worse. You might say something in the heat of the moment that you will regret later. Oh, sounds like people are in the building. Also, ask yourself if the issue is worth the conflict. You may not want to waste your energy on something that's not important to you. How to resolve conflicts. What can you do if you're involved in a dispute? Almost every situation requires each side to give a little. Compromise means that each person gives up something in order to reach a solution that satisfies everyone. That's what we call a win-win situation. We talked about this. We talked about the pointers of communicating with our family, of wanting a different curfew. How we said try and figure out a compromise to something to where each person gets what they want. I'm going to read the respect part here. All people want respect and are likely to respond well when they receive it. Everyday courtesy and good manners are a show of respect. Practicing them can help you avoid conflicts. With your classmates, discuss how common gestures of courtesy might help prevent conflicts, which I'm going to pause right there before we go to resolving conflicts. And we're going to talk about what are some common gestures of courtesy that might help prevent conflict. Pause. Unpause. Resolving conflict through communication. Good communication can help resolve conflict as well as prevent it. Use your speaking skills to present your side of the argument. Use listening skills when the other person explains his or her side. The talk strategy can help resolve conflicts. I would suggest taking notes on this. T is for take a time out. Wait 30 minutes before you talk over the situation. This will give you both a chance to calm down. And again, sometimes that can't happen the 30 minutes. It depends on the situation. If Tiger, Aaron, or Paul are being jerks to me when I'm teaching and I've asked them enough to, please behave and don't disrespect me or the other kids while I'm trying to teach and they're trying to learn, I may ask them to go step out in the hall. Now, I'm not going to wait 30 minutes for me to calm down and them to calm down. It may be, 2-3 minutes. I go outside and I ask them, I'm going to take my little emoji poster that's on my board and I'm going to take it off and I'm going to say, which emotion were you feeling when I asked you to step outside? And again, if Aaron, Tig, and Paul just go, oh, I'm going to leave and step back out and say, no, they're not wanting to own up this situation. And I may come back a minute or two later. Again, we can't wait 30 minutes all the time. Allow each person to tell his or her side uninterrupted. That's what A means. So I'll ask Ty, Aaron, and Paul, why do I think I have you outside here in the hall? And if they go, oh, I'll just leave. And I'll come back a minute later and I'll ask them again, why do you think I have you outside here in the hall? And I'll let them speak about why they think so. Each person should have the chance to explain his or her feelings without the other person breaking in. Choose a time and a place to talk where you won't be interrupted. L. Let each person ask questions. Both sides should have a chance to question each other. Stay calm and respectful. Also, stick to the issue. Bring up other problems at this. Don't bring up other problems at this time. So, again, we can each talk questions if I have them out here because because Aaron, Tyke, and Paul were disrupting my class. We can each ask questions. Also, something that's good for conflict, which you can't see because I'm sitting down right now, is again, we talked about body language and communication. How am I standing? Again, I like to stand, a little side saddle, my hands behind my back or my hands to my side, not having, again, my fists clenched. Again, not speaking, being mean in a certain way, having my voice like this will resolve conflicts. Finally, K, keep brainstorming. Try to see the situation from the other person's point of view. It'll help you find a solution that will satisfy you both. Now, again, with Aaron, Tyke, and Paul, I'm going to say, if you go back in and be respectful and listen to what I'm trying to teach, you can come in and, we can learn about this. If this happens again, maybe I'll just have you step out in the hall for the rest of the day and you just get a 0 for the assignment. Now, if this is something that continually keeps happening, that Aaron, Tyke, and Paul are always doing this, obviously a situation that I can resolve the conflict is move them away from each other in the classroom. And if that's still not working to where now, because Tyke's been moved away from Aaron and Paul, and Aaron and Paul are behaving now, but Tyke's just, he's just disrupting the class. Again, we've tried this resolving the conflict of having Tyke sit out in the hall and just failing the assignment. Next way I'm going to try and resolve the situation is call home and have Tyke explain, say, this is why I got a 0, this is why I'm getting a 0 on today's assignment because I'm not behaving in class. And then Mr. Chornak and parents, we'll talk to each other about this is what's happening with Tyke in class. And hopefully that parents and guardians try to resolve the situation with Tyke at home. If that doesn't work, then Tyke's going to go to Mrs. Gibbs or Mr. Roboto, if Tyke keeps acting that way. And then a way to hopefully resolve the conflict is not for Tyke to get ISS, which is in-school suspension, or OSS, which is out-of-school suspension, because neither of that resolves the conflict of Tyke not being in class and learning this stuff. So, communication skills. You and I, when resolving conflicts, choose words wisely, because be careful how you use the words you and I. Sentences centered on you tend to place blame on the other person. Again, sentences stressing I show a willingness to work it out. Like, Tyke, I feel bad when you don't want to learn about conflict resolution skills. Because I feel like that you're not going to understand how to resolve conflicts properly. So when you get into conflict with your fellow teachers, with your parents, your guardians, your siblings, your friends, you're not going to learn how to do it properly. And then as you grow up older, I know I used a you message, when you break a law and a cop has to speak with you, you're not going to know how to resolve the conflict properly, like when you get pulled over for speeding. Again, you messages. Why do you always get to pick where we hang out? Some of us deserve a chance to pick, too. Again, right there, that's flexing it on you. Or the I message. I feel frustrated I never get to choose where we hang out. The other person has realized, hey, this person has feelings too. Page 73. Resolving conflict through peer mediation. A mediator can help resolve conflicts. Mediators are people who are not involved in the dispute. Counselors, parents, and other adults can be mediators. Many schools have peer mediation programs. Peer mediation is a process at which a specifically trained student listens to both sides of a solution. Figure 3.7 shows the steps peer mediation might follow to help settle a conflict. Peer mediation is, do we have a peer that each person can go to in school? Obviously, peer mediators here, if a conflict happens in my class, I'll be the mediator of the problem or the situation, the conflict. Maybe Mrs. Gibbs has to be, maybe Mr. Roboto has to be, maybe Mrs. Bach will do it. Maybe Mrs. Ashton in the office will do it. Maybe they'll do something like that to help. So figure 3.7, the mediation process. To help students resolve conflicts, peer mediators go through hours of training. If you're a mediator, here are some basic steps you can take in any mediation situation. Establish neutrality. Tell the opposing sides you will remain neutral. You will not take sides or decide who is right or wrong. That happens in marriage counseling when, parents, guardians, when they're having trouble, maybe they need to go to a counselor, a mediator to talk, so maybe they don't have to get divorced. That's what a counselor is there for. Set ground rules. Get the opposite sides to agree on rules to keep the discussion fair and orderly. For example, you want to prohibit name calling and interrupting. Listen to each side. Allow each person to tell his or her side of the situation without interruption. Then allow each person to ask questions. 4. Search for possible solutions. Brainstorm together or ask each person to suggest a solution. Think of as many solutions as possible. Continue to work until you reach a solution that satisfies both sides. Again, a win-win situation. Again, conflicts cannot be resolved if each side walks away thinking they're getting more than I'm getting. They're getting 65% of the pie. I'm only getting 35% of the pie. We need to work it to where we get as close to 50-50 as possible. Don't give up. If opposing sides can't reach an agreeable situation, ask for help from adult or trusted by both sides. Again, keep working on it. Again, there are conflicts in the world that have been going on for thousands of years. Again, there's fights, between countries that have been going on for thousands and thousands of years that have still never been resolved. But that doesn't mean we don't try to resolve them for peace in this world, for peace in this country, for peace in this state, for peace in this city, for peace in this school. We try to resolve conflicts. Page 74. When conflicts get out of hand. Conflicts that get out of hand can lead to violence. Violence or the use of physical force to harm someone or something is a serious problem in the United States. And again, violence is not just physical, it can also be verbal, it can also be mental. Music lyrics, movies, television shows, video games often show or suggest violent behavior. When people think that violence is an acceptable way to deal with conflict, they may attack or even kill other people. Figure 3.8 shows some causes of violence. Violent crime affects everyone. Victims of crime and their families are the first to suffer. People who witness crimes are often affected. Medical expenses, trials, and prison make violent crimes costly for everyone. Again, 3.8, why violence erupts? There are some common factors that contribute to violent acts. And this is something that when I used to teach conflict resolution and discovery, we used to talk about the anger volcano, about how anger builds up and builds up and builds up until it blows. And then that anger becomes violence. I used to also like to call it an anger toilet. that the anger toilet was not being flushed, and eventually it overflows, and all that filth that comes out of the toilet is just spreads everywhere and makes a mess. Well, sometimes, again, that toilet, that anger needs to be flushed. Some things, again, are lack of tolerance. Judgments or opinions about people that are not based on facts or knowledge may lead to violent acts against people or particular groups. Negative peer pressure. Members of peer groups, especially gangs, often press one another into violent acts to show loyalty or toughness. Gun possession. People who can't control their anger or want to feel powerful may use a gun to settle an argument. Again, not just guns, any type of weapon, a knife, a baseball bat, a car. They'll use something to settle an argument. Anger. People who have not learned to deal with their anger in a healthy way may act violently in tense situations. Drugs and alcohol. Using alcohol and buying and selling illegal drugs often contribute to violence because, again, you are coping with the situation wrong. You are trying to use drugs and alcohol to mask and hide from a situation. What can you do? You might ask, what can a person do to stop violence? You can start by believing in yourself and knowing that you deserve respect. Then follow these steps to protect yourself. Again, I take notes on this. Commit to nonviolence. Do not fight or threaten others. Don't watch fights to encourage fights. Yes, I know I'm going to hear fight or flight theory. And I know I'm going to hear, well, I was just defending myself. And I hear from my parents, my guardians, that, you have to defend yourself. Fighting, again, was self-defense. Violence in hurting someone should be a last resort. That violence and physical harm to someone should only be used as a last resort when you cannot escape the situation. Again, fight or flight teaches, again, if you can escape a situation without throwing a punch, do so. Dress for safety. Don't wear t-shirts and offensive messages. Avoid wearing anything that could be mistaken for gang clothing. Avoid wearing expensive items like gold jewelry or leather jackets, which may put you in danger. If you use a purse, carry it with you and strap it across your chest. Again, that's why we don't allow you to wear bandanas. It's why we don't allow you to wear, again, certain colors, certain things on you. Again, because they can be associated with this gang or that gang. We don't allow that. Again, that's why we, showing off your bling, showing off things that you have. People who want it may steal it from you. Avoid weapons, gangs, and drugs. Avoid contact with weapons, gangs, or drugs. It's likely to lead to trouble. Use conflict resolution. Recall the skills that you've learned for settling disputes and practice them whenever possible. Use good manners. Being polite can help ease tensions that can lead to violence. Again, that's part of conflict resolution. Again, and this comes back to communication, both verbal and nonverbal. Speaking properly to someone will probably resolve a situation, not raising your voice, using iMessages, not using threatening language or body language. Good. Accepting differences. Recognize that individuals and groups are entitled to have different ideas, beliefs, and values. Again, I'm a Bronco fan. I'm a Denver Bronco fan. I love them. Doesn't mean that I hate Las Vegas Raiders or Kansas City Chief or Los Angeles Charger fans because they're in the same division that I am. I recognize differences in ideas, beliefs, and values. Same thing goes, I'm a violent pirate. I like to poke fun at Pleasant View Middle School because they're our natural rival, out here in the Mesa. Doesn't mean I hate TV. I may think they're stinky and smelly, but I don't hate them. And then advocate for peace. Serve as a positive example. Become a peer mediator or volunteer with an anti-crime group. So, some schools require students to wear uniforms. This eliminates gang colors and clothes. We do that here at Vinyl. You wear a uniform. Again, I'm going to ask you, do you think school uniforms are a good idea? We're going to pause, and you're going to tell me why or why not. Again, we're not going to do the lesson review questions. On Wednesday, we are going to act out, like we did with peer pressure, ways that we can resolve conflicts appropriately. Again, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, as always, message me through Schoolology. Thank you very much, and have a good day.